0 to 7 figures. 0 to 7 figures. 0 to 7 figures.
Hey, I'm Brian Post.
And Abraham Ruiz.
Welcome back to another episode of 0 to 7 figures.com podcast.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Today we're going to talk about the family business. The
Family business.
Family business.
Yes, sir. So this subject is pretty near and dear to me because I have since I've been an adult, let's say it that way, since I left the house, in some form or fashion have been involved in the family business. My father had a company. Mr. Steamer Carpet Cleaner was the name of the company.
Cool.
And when he passed in 97, I had to adopt that little company, and I turned it from, this is when I found out I was decent at business. I found out he was doing a very modest amount of money. He wasn't doing very much business, right? So I went in and I started working it, and that's where I found out I was good at it. I had to work with all my sisters. I had to work with my mother. Nobody had any education on what we were doing. It was trial by fire. And fortunately enough, I was
How old were you?
I was 19 years old. Yeah.
How long had he been running it?
I kept it. We sold it. We ended up selling it to a larger company. So we had it running for, when I was there, 3.5 years till I decided I had to leave.
How old were you when your dad started it, and how long had he been running it?
He'd been running it. My God, he's been running that janitorial company probably for 7-8 years.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, he had it for a while. And I think we've discussed this before. My dad was very blue collar.
Mm-hmm.
His business prowess was minimum.
Yep.
But what he was good at, so growing up, he had distributorships. Like he worked for Tasty Bread. I don't know if you're familiar, kind of like Wonder Bread. He worked for Archway Cookies, Little Debbie. So he had his own companies.
Yeah.
But under the umbrella of a larger company. So you didn't have to mention marketing. All he had to do is go, they give him a space to work in. This is your parameters. This is, this 6 miles by 6 miles, every store, and there's yours. And that's what he did. So I used to go on the routes with him in the morning. So I did learn a lot of that. I mean, we'd get up at 4:30 in the morning and jump in the truck and have to go load it. It was horrible, dude.
That's how you got them cheeks. That's how you got them cheeks.
That's
eating
right.
them tasty cakes.
Lion blood, baby. You mix a little Mayan with a little Asian, and you get a round face. You can't.
That's from eating them tasty cakes.
The tasty cake? They had no tasty cakes, man. Come on. The funny thing is, my dad had Little Debbie's all the time. But my mom would go shopping and buy the off-brand ones.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't understand that. But there was an economy inside of our house, and he needed to sell what the product that he had instead of us eating it. So
yeah, that's right.
But so that's where, that was the first family business that I was a part of. And obviously I was a minor part of it, but my dad liked having me with him. And so I would roll around with him. I'd meet all the store owners and the people that would check him in. It was interesting to see how he interacted with people. And that's where I learned how to interact with people. My dad was a funny dude. He was very personable. He was, at home, a little different. He was a very, very iron-fisted. But, out in work, he was very, very, very different persona.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I learned very early how to work inside of that. But when my dad died in 97, he left me Mr. Steamer Carpet Cleaner. And so I was able to take that business. They were legitimately doing, I think, $48,000 a year. Within the first 7 months, I had it to $142,000.
Nice.
And I went and picked up major places like Peterbilt, Mack Truck. And so we were doing the floors for them. And then we were going in, we did all the smart styles for Walmarts within a 3-state area. So we were doing a lot of work. Back then, 142 or 147. Somewhere it was one of those two figures. It's been a while. But that was a lot of money then.
Yeah, yeah.
We were able to pay off the house that my dad had left. When my dad left me $90,000 worth of debt, that was my inheritance. That was the one. That's when I talk about my dad didn't have the prowess. He always paid his debt, but he always had debt. Yeah. And that was one of the things that I was like, I can't leave my mom in this situation. So I was there for about 3 years, and then I was like, you know what? I can't live in Arkansas anymore, and I can't be a porcelain technician anymore. I got to go because
porcelain technician.
I had just gotten married, so we left, and I came down here, and that's when I got into banking. So
that's a cool story, man. That's a very cool story. not everyone is fortunate to have that opportunity to even be in a home with entrepreneurial DNA.
Right.
And I always think, we start talking about a family business, I think you always have to look at Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. You have the employee, the self-employed, the business, and the investor.
Right.
A lot of times in family businesses, we call them a family business, but really what we are is self-employed.
Right.
And then you have some employees, but then Kiyosaki says, in order to get wealthy, you have to have a business or you have to be an investor. And,
Right.
I think it's something that a lot of small business owners aren't always clear on when it comes to, the operation of their business. Are you self-employed? Does your money stop when you stop working, or can you step away and the money keeps coming in?
And see, in that particular scenario, when I left, the business went from doing the 140 plus a year to going to 80 the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got it back up to 100, and then they ended up selling it.
Yeah.
So it never really got really big, but my mom was to be able to sell it for a year's worth of income, which is fantastic, because
Absolutely.
she didn't walk away with nothing.
Yeah.
And that was important to me. But that is the difference. Like they did not know how to manage it,
and probably debt free.
Debt free.
Yeah.
Debt free. She was debt free when she passed. That's one thing that I have always maintained. Is like, the only reason if I've ever had debt is because of credit, which I think is ironic. That you have to have debt in order to have a decent credit.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Isn't it?
Strong irony there. I go in, I have something for a year, I paid off, and they don't like that, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
But speaking back to the family business, I had my sisters working underneath me, and that was rough enough because they were older than me. I was the youngest. I was the baby, and there was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure to put on somebody that had just become an adult, but nobody else was stepping up.
Yeah.
Either step up or everything's gonna fall to shit, I guess. Can I cuss on the podcast? I just did.
Ain't no beeping machine up here, bro.
It was her. But moving on to that, like talking about my current business, it's a family owned and operated business too. Now I say that now my crew members are not my family. We probably might be related. They're all Mayan too, so maybe we are related. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But I have my daughter recently, within the last 3 months, started working for me. She's a 16-year-old sophomore here in Denton, Texas, and she is in all AP classes. She's an amazing kid. She's very intelligent, and she was going to go get a job. And I was like, why don't you work for me?
Yeah.
Why don't you invest the time here? And I guarantee you the income or the reward is going to be much bigger, because this provides for everything that we do. So if you're helping me on this end, you get paid well. You get to work from the convenience of your dad's office 3 minutes from our house. So that was something we started doing recently. And it took me a little while because I'm not a very good trainer. And I think one of the things that me and you talked about was, how do I separate family from business? And how do you treat somebody that is a family member like an employee when they're still your family member? That is the tricky part.
Well, so number one, and I know you know this, I don't know if every small business owner knows this, but you can employ your children and pay them up to $700 a month, and that's all tax free. So that is a great way, even just for savings for some families. So keep that in mind. But I have always had family members in my businesses. I currently do not. Well, I do, because I have 2 businesses, and actually my ex-wife still runs postinstitute.com, and we were business partners for 12 years. I mean, it was natural for us. I've never liked to have an official office, so I've always liked working from home. Every business, I don't like having a freaking office. If I'm going to have an office, I want it to be in my home. And so it was just easy for us to work together. We always worked great. And after we split up, she continued to run the back end of the business, and still continues to this day. So
I'm interested in that statement. You said you like having a business office at home. You do not like having a brick and mortar outside of the house. What is your reasoning behind that?
because I don't like the idea. Number one, I'm a workaholic. Number two, I don't like the idea of having to leave to go to the office and then like having to turn off. And so even in Northern California, so here at the apartment in Weatherford, I have my work area. At the house in Oklahoma City, I have a work area. In Northern California, I have a house there, and we all work out of that house. And so it does, and even in the Chico, so now I've got two houses in California, one in Chico, we all work out of that house.
Right.
And I try to make everything as mobile as possible, as digital as possible.
Right.
Because for me, it automatically gives me a level of freedom that is a part of why I'm an entrepreneur. I like the freedom. That's what it's all about for me.
The reason I asked that question is because, in a roofing business, most roofers don't have a brick and mortar location. And that speaks more to probably 85% of the roofers, maybe closer to 90%. But those are the guys that are maybe working 3 to 6 months out of the year. Now I have a brick and mortar location here. I have one in Oklahoma City. But that is something I've considered is dropping off that monthly obligation, because I honestly, if I go into the office, it may be once or twice a week. I don't go in very often, and the people that work for me, they're in the field most of the time, with the exception of the girl that runs the office. So it's like
customers probably aren't driving by seeing your office or your storefront saying, "Hey, let me go in and check."
No matter what the signage was, it's a roofing institution. Like, people just don't. There's not a lot of interest there unless their roof is leaking, man. It's just that's just the way it is. So having a walk-in location only brings peace of mind to some people, because they know they have somewhere to go just in case. Because the fly-by-night roofers don't have somewhere where you can go and say, "Hey, what's wrong? My roof's leaking." Well, at least they have that fallback. They know where I'm located. They can find me. Whereas if I don't answer the phone, they can find me. I answer my phone. Let's clear that up. I always answer my phone. That's one of the things my customers always say. But I've been. I was trying to think of some other things. So when I was married, you're speaking about your ex-wife. I also have an ex-wife that we were in business together as well. We had a company called Eye Candy, and everybody thought it was porn. It's not porn. EyeCandy.com was not porn. Although if you put it in wrong, EyeCandy.net took you straight to porn. But but we sold artwork is what we sold. And when we did that together, we traveled all over the southern U.S. We even went up through California, Oregon, Washington State. We traveled quite a bit, and it was a lot of fun. Now, at that time, we didn't have children to worry about. And when you don't have children to worry about, it makes it a lot easier on the couple. It's when you bring children into it, the obligations and the priorities shift, and then you got to figure out, okay, how much time can I spend in the field? How much time can I spend at home? And that's where I think a home office plays into it real well.
Yeah, you've got to have the right partner. I mean, because again, I mean, with my ex-wife, who still runs Post Institute, in our home, we had a designated place it was a big, it's how you have a big den.
Yeah.
And so we had a place where we had our employees, and we had bookshelves full of tapes and CDs and stuff. And we had a little girl, and I traveled. So I had to travel probably every week. And she'd, our little daughter grew up, I mean, on the floor, playing in the middle of the office. And so it's just that flexibility that you have to have, and you got to have the right partner that can step up and do that. And I've been married more than once, and every one of my marriages I've tried to work with them, because I think it's just a part of what I enjoy. But that hasn't always worked out. You've got to have the right partner in your business in order for that business to be successful. And because she's the right partner, so that business has been around for 20 years.
And I wonder, like, for instance, like, I mean, people call you a workaholic, may call me a workaholic, that we're always doing something, that we don't stop. Our brains don't shut down, honestly. That's not how we operate. And people say, well, that family's more important. Family's absolutely important. Family's the point. But at the end of the day, that is part of who I am. And so
Yeah.
when you start working with a family, you have to explain yourself in such a way and communicate yourself in such a way that you say, this is part of my personality. This is part of my character. This is not me trying to get away from you. It's not me trying to grab an ungodly amount of wealth, or what we'll call it riches, because there's a difference between riches and wealth, like we talked about before. But it is part of who I am. It's in my DNA. And it's not something I can step away from. I can do it on occasion, go on vacations, do those things. I said, but that's what daddy does. And that's how daddy takes care of everybody. So, and I say daddy, that references to my wife, not my children. Just kidding. But anyway, so yeah.
That's a good point. You have to be very clear in the communication. That having a partner in your business that is your spouse, and having them dog you out about the hours you're putting in just impacts the business, which impacts the family.
It's amazing how it changes the temperature. It's so quick, because you need the support, and what you're getting is like, you don't spend enough time doing this, and then next thing you know, the climate's changed, and now you feel different, you feel oppressed, you feel heavy, and
100.
you cannot function well. And that's why it is important for that person to get on board. And it's also important to segregate some hours. So if you, just like your regular job, people work 9 to 5, there's no reason. So on my website, it says I work from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's pretty accurate as far as when I man the phones. It's accurate. So, I answer the phones whatever time, but those are our hours. And that's what most people will call me anyways. So if you kind of stick to some sort of game plan, and then you make the exception and you explain the exception why you have to work tonight, I think that's okay. But it is very important communication. It doesn't matter what relationship we're talking about. So
now let's talk about the management of family members inside of a family business, because I've hired a lot of family members to work inside of businesses. And I've got a cousin, I've dragged him all over the US in various roles, because I knew I could depend on him, but I always knew I could depend on him to a point. And what I learned is that when I've hired family members, which is fine, I want to be able to support my family, all of my family, as much as I possibly can, but I also hold them to a much higher standard. And I tell them right up front, look, we're family, and because we're family, I expect more of you than I do the employees. So I'm holding you to a higher standard, and because I'm going to hold you to a higher standard, I'm going to fire you probably before I'm going to fire one of my employees, because I don't want it to affect our family relationship. But if you can't meet that standard or work towards that standard above and beyond everyone else, because this business feeds our family, then you got to go, because I don't need that extra responsibility and that extra emotional pull.
Well, it becomes, that person turns from being an asset inside the family and inside the business to being a liability. And that's when you have to say, okay, now you're a liability for the income and for the well-being of our family. This is how we make our living. This is how we take care of everything. And if you're a liability, I can't have you in this segment of our relationship anymore. And it's nothing against you, because, I think you're a good worker, and there's a reason I had you here in the first place. But if you cannot concentrate, and if you cannot do and fulfill the role that I need you to, just like any other employee, then you're going to have to kick rocks. And then I'll see you at dinner. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. And that's a tough position. That's one of the reasons a lot of people say, don't get into business with your family. I said, but you know what? Most businesses are family based. Tell me one that's not. Yeah. Even if there's just a man at the top, a guy or a girl that started the business, still there's a support staff, which is that family.
And that's the most ridiculous statement ever. Don't get family in business. The most successful businesses in our country have been started by families. Yeah, you got Walmart, you got Ford, you've got the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilt. These families control the United States economy. So that's just a ridiculous statement, probably made by someone who was afraid to manage their family members. And I think that's the key. You got to be willing to manage and handle your business.
Because you can manage anybody. It is about respect too. It's about the tone that you use with somebody, how you communicate your words. I'm a very, very direct person. And so I everything I do, it has some objectivity connected with it. It is not about, did I hurt your feelings? Was I short with you? Sometimes I'm just trying to get information out. I've had people cry because I said it so abruptly, and I said, this is what we're doing. And they start welling up. I wasn't trying to make you cry. I wasn't beating you up. What I'm trying to do is give you the information you need to hear, and then I'm trying to go this direction so I can get done what I need to get done. That's all it is. And that is a tough part too, is because sometimes family members are a little more sensitive. And managing that, I've seen my sister cry more times than I wish I had, but that was way back when we were a little younger, and this particular sister is a little more sensitive than the rest of them. And I've had customers yell at her and she'd break down, but it's like, you have to toughen up a little bit because it is just business. So.
Yeah, and you gotta, at the same point, you've got to know who within the family dynamic actually needs to be in your business versus who doesn't.
I was going to bring that point up.
You got to be able to make that very clear delineation. Don't set. I mean, as kids, my parents always had little side hustles to make extra money, and that's how I started working really young. And we used to work in the field chopping cotton in the summers. And my sister hated getting up early.
Lord.
And
what's that? Work with cotton?
Cotton, yeah, man.
That's brutal.
We used to chop cotton.
That's hardcore stuff.
From probably,
eat your hands up.
Probably when I was as early as 7 years old, man. Getting up in the mornings in the summers about 5:30, being out in the field, chopping till it got hot, and then going home and then coming back in the evenings. And my sister hated getting up early in the mornings, period. And they would fuss and fight to get her to come out there just so she'd be a shitty hand. I mean, she'd drag everybody down and not handle a row. And eventually I think they woke up to the realization that it just wasn't worth the fight.
Okay, so how do you determine if an individual like your sister is lazy and just doesn't want to get up and do it, and she needs to be pushed to do it, or she is just not built for that business?
I think it's all based on performance, really. It's one thing for a parent to get a kid up, right?
Sure. That's hard enough.
They don't, it's hard enough. But if they get out there and they have and I was freaking money hungry, like Les Brown says, you got to be hungry. I was freaking hungry. So I had no problem getting up. Problem being out there.
Sure.
And in fact, when I got a little bit older, I used to stay out there all day. Everyone else would go home and I would just stay out there. So my sister, once you got a kid that is dragging down the energy,
right, they
gotta go. Go. You can't allow that emotional mental drain on what is the responsibility of the business.
I mean, even with the salespeople that are not related to me, it's the same concept. If you come inside my office and you get around my people and you come in with your bad attitude and you're complaining and you're sulking and you're upset, I said, you can take it back home because you're not helping here. All you're doing is changing everybody else's outlook on what's happening today. And sometimes it's not fun, the things we have to do. But it is necessary. And if you can't handle the necessary because you're not making a boatload of money today, I don't know what to tell you. There's always work, baby. And that's what people don't see it as. They see it as just a way to grab some money. It's like, no, this is actually work. And in order for a business to be successful, all the moving parts have to be working in sync. And that's I don't know. So my mother. Go ahead.
The godfather of marketing, Dan Kennedy, says, if I'm losing sleep over you at night and I ain't sleeping with you and you're not paying me, you gotta go.
Love it. It's true, because there are people that you get home and you're still thinking about that person. And then you go to sleep and you toss and turn a little bit thinking about, what am I going to do with this person? And then you wake up thinking the same thing. How much emotional energy do you invest inside for somebody that ultimately is no longer an asset and is a liability? I don't know how long you do that. It's like I'm definitely a guy that gives that multiple chances. I am that guy. I'm very forgiving. I'm very trustworthy, and I trust people very much. So I want them to do their best. But at the end of the day, if their best is not good enough, it's just not good enough. And maybe it's not because of their work ethic. Maybe it's because the field or the industry that they're in. They have no level of interest here, and it's important.
Everyone has to have a role. Everyone has to have a role that they can own and feel good about. And I think that, because this is a part of our surviving small business coronavirus small business survival guide series, then I think, when we're thinking about small businesses during this time specifically, I think the delineation of roles is really important, and families getting really clear about what they've got to do, how they have to execute,
right,
and holding one another accountable.
And that's important. And that's why, like, when we were in business as a family, when I was a little younger, I was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Did my mom handle the bank and stuff like that? Sure, she did, because I was too busy out there scooping up business.
Yeah.
But that's the way it's always been. Even today, if we get in, we're talking about doing something together, everybody starts asking me questions. What do we do? What's the next move? And I'm like, I don't even know what we're talking about yet, but let me do some research and we'll figure it out. But you're right. There has to be roles, and everybody has to have a place. And part of it makes them feel important. Just like any other employee, they want to feel like they are needed. And then that's where that family and business thing gets wonky, because obviously they're needed, and obviously you love them. But inside the business, how are they needed? And
I went into a jewelry store just the other day.
Oh no!
And the lady was like, "My dad buys these diamonds, and my dad buys this." And then she said, "And my sister." So I know for a fact that they were operating their business as a family, because they probably had to let go of the other employees, and the family was all kicking in. And she kept alluding to my dad, and this is a grown woman who's married, and whose husband had bought her some diamonds, but she was like, my dad this and my dad that. She's committed. And then she called me. I love this. So I've never had this happen. She called me 2 days after and was like, hey, I was going to send you a thank you card, but I want to make sure I had the right address. I'm like, that's gold. That's gold. That's like small business obsession. That's small business hustle. And it goes, we were talking about our rocket fuel marketing tips, and one is collecting emails and phone numbers. That's why I will consistently go back to that jewelry store, because of that one extra touch. Not because she was an exceptional salesperson, but that one little touch as another small business owner, entrepreneur, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely great, because that exact same situation. I was at a jewelry store here in Denton. Same thing. The father owned it. His two daughters were running the front of the house. Now they had other employees too, but when you spoke to them and they came around and they spoke to their employees, you knew there was a family unit running this thing. Mm-hmm. And I'd be interested to know, maybe if you want to drop some information down in the comments section. I would like to know, do you have a preference? Are you okay with using corporate America, or do you have a preference for a family business? What is the preference? If I'm looking at business, especially like, let's say in my field or something similar like a service, I definitely want a family business. Now, that's me. But there are some people that like the corporate because it's bigger, especially when it comes to like buying a vehicle. Obviously, you can't really buy that's a little different. But that for me, that is a selling point when somebody talks to me and says, "Hey, my son's involved. My wife just handles the books." I love that. And that's one thing I loved about when me and my wife were together and we were running that business together. I loved the fact that there was everybody in the business that they talked to, that they would talk to, was related to me.
You just gave someone a business idea.
Yeah.
So number one, I love small businesses. Because I'm a small business owner, I love to support other hustlers out there, taking risk and doing something. And I don't like big chains. I don't like big chain restaurants. I don't like big box stores. I like small when I know I'm going to get a reasonable deal. But you just said it's not like buying vehicles. You gave someone an idea right there, because I tell you what, if someone made a personal connection with me and said, let me get you the vehicle that you're looking for, I'll find it, I'll source it, I'll drive it over to you, I'll let you check it out. and then I'll write paperwork in your home or online, and you never have to do. What is that? That's called Carvana right now.
Yeah.
People are selling cars online.
You know what we call it?
Person.
Yeah.
One person can in the comment section tell Abe Ruiz that you want to sell him a vehicle.
I need a new F-250 if we're looking.
There you go. Become Abe's personal car salesperson, and then launch your business off of the 0 to 7 figures podcast.
Well, you know that that's the way it used to be, right? Like even now, you go into a car lot, you want a sales guy, but obviously the sales guy is not usually related to the owner, and the owner's not related to the manufacturer. That's not usually how it works out. But a family-owned car lot is still a family-owned car lot, and that's as close as you're going to get. It's like, I don't know. It's like, I don't want to go get honey from the hive, bro. I want it in a bottle. So I'm okay with that scenario.
Yeah,
but,
man.
I'm not trying to get stung. But anyway, even now, if you go into, like, I have a friend in Missouri where I grew up, and he has a car lot. When I was growing up, he started his first car lot. Now he has 17 of them. And he went from dealing like domestic vehicles to doing like Ferraris. He has a Ferrari dealership there. He has the BMW dealership there. And he and his boys, as they grew up, they all went to college and came back, and they helped develop that business with them.
I wonder what they're doing with their business right now, because I was just reading some statistics the other day how this economy right now, this pandemic is crushing car lots. Like, they're just shutting down. But the reason is because they're not getting freaking creative. And
here's the thing. So, for instance, my next door neighbor he's a component over at the Mercedes dealership in Plano. Okay, that he's the service director out there, but he also handles sales to major clients. We'll call them volume clients, meaning that they buy.
Mercedes?
Huh?
Mercedes?
Mercedes, yes.
Oh, nice. I'm thinking about another one.
His wife is driving a brand new E360 or something like that. It was dope. I went in there, the whole dash lights up, bro. It's like it's a nice looking vehicle. He had the sound on. I was like, it was hurting my heart. I could feel it in my chest. But so he's over there, and I asked him. We do a 6-foot happy hour at the end of our driveways once or twice a week, where we drink beer and yell at each other. And so we were talking about it, and he said that initially there was no impact on the business. They were on target. They were still moving, because most of the people that they deal with, the amount of wealth that they have doesn't really impact them buying $100,000 to $180,000 vehicle. It doesn't change their economy much. But as oil and gas has dropped, a lot of these guys are oil and gas. So they've seen a decline in the customers that tend to buy a lot of vehicles for their employees or whatever it is, or for their executives. They're not doing it right now. They're buying Chevys and they're buying Priuses. And it's hurt their business. Now, that was for about the first month. I talked to him 2 days ago, and he said it's bounced right back. Nothing's changed. So it's coming back. So I don't know if Mercedes got creative. I haven't asked him what their marketing technique is, and he may not even know. I don't know if he's at that level as far as, he may not play in that part of it. But the clients that he has, like, I was sitting on the driveway with him yesterday. He was talking to, what's his name, from the Dallas Cowboys, Michael Irving. He was on the phone with him. I was sitting there. He had a picture there. And we were just looking at him. He was talking and cracking up. Nice dude. And it's like, those are the clients that he's dealing with. Like the other day, he was with a Seattle Seahawk. Someone played for the Seattle Seahawks. I didn't know him, but he was a wide receiver for him. And it was interesting to see that, because at that level, those guys still have the money. And in this economy, it doesn't affect that. Now, when we're talking about domestic vehicles, there's got to be a drop in it, significant drop in it, because those are people that are scared. Paycheck to paycheck.
There's still a market for those domestic drivers who were blue collar working class folks, need a vehicle right now. They want to be able to talk to a car salesman on the phone, and say, hey, what do you need? And you don't need to come by and let me drop it over to your house. There's so many opportunities if we can just get out of the fear that keeps us shut down. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. I outlined to her over the phone in about a 10-minute conversation a business that she and her husband could start right that day. They've got kids. Could be a family business, and they are all so smart, and she loves sales. She loves getting on the phone. Her husband's a mechanical genius. Her kids are mechanical geniuses. I said, you guys should be hillbilly millionaires without a doubt. And she's like, I know. She said, we should probably be hillbilly billionaires.
Now I'm
There's
curious
something
about business, but we can't give it away if they're going to start something.
That's right.
But yeah, so back to the family dynamic. The family dynamic is something you have to consider when you want to include people. And there are some families that just never ever attempt it.
You just can't.
Absolutely not.
Can't
You
wrap
go
your
out there,
brain
start your business, share your money with your family or your wealth with your family if you need to do that. But there's absolutely no reason to be involved with some of your family members. So it is a model that works because America, some of the strongest, the biggest part of our economy is formed by family businesses.
Family business. That's right.
And so you have to consider whether or not you can handle it, and you consider not whether the temperaments work together. But
100.
what else we got, man? What else?
That's it, brother.
That was it. That was the topic for the week, for today, the week.
That wraps it up.
Guys, we really appreciate y'all tuning in to 0to7figures.com podcast. We will be doing more of these. We're probably going to go down to about 2 a week where we can really hone in on what's going on. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
I lost.
I hear you.
There it is. Okay. The screen went blue. We're going to hone in on more current stuff and be able to approach those things. And we really want comments. We really want feedback from you guys. It's important. This is how we build our information, how we approach the topics. So down below, please smash the like button, guys, subscribe, and please leave us comments.
Absolutely.
If you have any questions, we're here for you, baby.
100.
All right. Love you guys.
Peace.
0 to 7 figures. .com 0 to 7 figures. .com 0